Hi, welcome to Shrinks on the Street podcast. Today's topic, Marriage Essentials 1 and 2. I am your host, M. Gary Newman, with my wise co-host, Esther Neuman Halperin, and my daughter. We have a practice in Miami Beach, and please go to newmanmethod.com, Neuman method.com. Find out about our work with Oprah, our New York Times bestselling work, and other projects we have to help the community. So, we wanted to jump right into some practical ideas regarding marriage.
Yeah. So often, people come to us and they're, chasing down so many issues within their marriage. And so in our research and our work together as therapists and researchers to try to figure out, we wanted to figure out what were the key points that will really change your marriage. When you want to go and work on your marriage, what are those items? What is going to make the biggest change?
Yeah, and I think that's critical because I think a lot of people, they go for help and there's a lot of dilly-dallying and a lot of conversation.
A lot of emotional,
Very much so. And you have to get to that. But the bottom line is if you don't have some of these key ingredients, all of that really falls apart because as you're going to see, you need some of these things in order to fit all of that emotion and energy into it. Yeah. Okay? So let's get to it. Let's number one,
all right.
Esther.
The first thing that we found was appreciation. Now, everyone says, yes, we all want appreciation. But when we say appreciation, it's appreciation for the little things, and the things that we're supposed to do. See, this is something I always get in my office. I'm sure you get it too, Gary. I know it's a funny example, but I have it all the time.
Yeah.
Will he take out the trash? I just want him to take out the trash. Why? And it's always the guy. For some reason, the guys are always taking out the trash. But
of course.
As they should. But they really take out the trash, and he should take out the trash. And there's always arguments over this. And if you're tuning in, you know what I mean. And I always say, why don't you say, well, thank you, honey. Thank you so much for taking out the trash. And I always get laughs. Everyone always laughs at me because of that. But the truth is, we want to feel appreciated for the things that we do. Even if it's mundane. Even if it's thanks so much for doing homework with the kids. Thank you so much for doing carpool. We all want to feel good. If your friend says to you, wow, I was so sick and you made me a meal. Thank you so much. Well, you might have done that anyway. You don't need the appreciation necessarily, but it feels good.
Yeah, it feels very good.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing, I'll have couples come into my office and I'll say to them, I'll give them pads of paper and I'll say, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to write a list of things that you appreciate about each other, and I give them, 10 minutes. 10 minutes, they don't need 2 minutes, They're like, it's painful. They're cranking out a little one or two things. And I always look at the pads and I always say to them, I don't understand. There's some things obviously missing. How about the fact that he's such a great dad. She's such a great mom. She makes a good living. He makes a good, and they always say the same thing to your point. It's like, well, he's supposed to do that. She's supposed to do that. Like suddenly the idea is you don't get thanks unless you just do something way beyond above the call of duty. Yeah. And that's painful because, it takes a lot of effort just to do what we're doing. We really crave
the day-to-day
appreciation.
And it's almost in the grind. I know people, it's very easy to appreciate gifts. Oh my God, you got me flowers. Thank you so much. That's so nice. Okay, that's great. But
something extra.
That's something extra, right? The bonuses. But
right.
really, we really want to be thanked for the everyday things. And what it will do in your marriage, it will make you both feel so much better in the grind of life. Life can get exhausting, especially now, things going on in the world. It can get exhausting. And how nice would it be a couple times a day for your spouse to be like, wow, hey, thank you so much. That was such a help. Thanks for helping with the breakfast with the kids. Even if they do it every single day for the last 15 years.
Exactly. They bring you coffee every day. Well, just because they do it every day, why not thank you? And remember, it costs you nothing. Right? Typically,
that's a very good point, Gary.
It's a some simple comment. It's a hug. It's a thank you. It's a phone call. It's a smiley face. Yeah. Obviously, you can purchase items that say thank you.
Texting is great.
Of
Emojis.
Course.
Love emojis.
People love it. And you know what appreciation does for me is it sums up the person for good. And that's a beautiful message to send to your spouse. All of us are complicated. All of us are imperfect. We all make such mistakes. But when I say thank you, thanks for doing that, basically what I've said is your whole self, all the complications, but at this moment, I'm summing you up for good. And it's an amazing thing. When you say and you focus on good things in your spouse, more good things come out.
Yeah.
Okay? People who are happily married know that. People who have bad marriages and failed marriages, they focus on the negative. They focus on what's not done. And man, no matter what the person does, they could have done it better, faster, and sooner. And it just brings out more acrimony to the point of like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and it makes people feel like they can't. We'll get to this. Can't win. Like, oh, no matter what I do, it's never good enough. But also think about it like in your job, right? If and anybody in their job, if your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, you did great the other day. Keep up the good work." Well, that's amazing.
Means so much.
Feel so good.
Even though.
Right. Even if we're being paid to do it, in fact.
Exactly.
Right.
You're supposed to do it.
Right.
But meanwhile, still, you feel great.
So you feel
Absolutely.
You feel nice. So also, I say this to parents out there. When you have a kid and they're, let's say, my kid has taken up his octave to a very high level, meaning he screams a lot.
He shatters glass.
Yes, in this high pitched tone. And if you go around, you go, stop screaming. Like, it just doesn't work. They get louder somehow. Always. So, a lot of you as with children, you always want to point out the positive. Wow, you're speaking so softly. That's wonderful. Positive reinforcement. It's you all know it. Positive reinforcement is great. So, I know it's funny, but you want to do the same thing in your marriage.
Yeah, for sure.
Positive.
It's the same.
Wow, thank you so much for taking out the trash. Wow, thank you so much for, cleaning the dishes. Wow, thank you so much for, thank you so much for appreciating me. Thank you so much for the thank you.
Yes.
And it just brings
you lose nothing.
It's happiness,
It's such a nice thing to do. So much so that I would suggest everybody out there, from this point on, starting today, make 2 appreciative comments or gestures every single day to your spouse. Don't tell your spouse, if you're watching this alone without your spouse, don't tell your spouse. Just start making 2 appreciative gestures. Now, that could be a phone call, a smiley, a nice magazine that they like.
Yeah.
By the way, calling your spouse, the kids are vomiting, and the mortgage, we can't have money for the mortgage, and by the way, you're terrific, does not count. That doesn't count as one of them, okay? But nonetheless, start doing it, and I'll bet you, it always comes back to me. Within 2-3 days, your spouse comes to you and says, "What has gotten into you? What is going on?" And you'll explain.
True.
I'm just trying to be a little more appreciative, and I like that. I would like that back. Not only does it feel good to appreciate it, but think about it. If I say to you, tomorrow you got to think of 2 things. So all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, well, he did make the bed.
You start registering the
he
good
did
things.
take the trash out.
Right.
She did, go to that meeting and work hard those few hours. Whatever it is, take care of the kids. You start to say, wow, it's happening.
And even in, different, if you look positive psychology, if you say thank you for the little things in life, your psyche changes. You start feeling good. You start focusing on the good and less on the bad. And that's kind of what we're getting to here. Start focusing on the positive things and the good things your spouse does by appreciating it. And not only just focusing in your mind, because it's hard to just say, oh, okay, in your mind, oh, yeah, my husband. Saying it to your spouse, because if you're thinking it, your spouse needs to know it, and that will bring you closer, and it'll bring you and make you feel more connected.
Absolutely. So in a marriage, remember, like we've talked, it's not unconditional love. It's not like I get to do whatever I want. We get married because we want things from each other. There's got to be a balance of give and take, and the more we focus on what good you're doing, and the more we tell the other person what good you're doing, the more good that you're going to come out of it.
I think that's a very good, I think that's a very good point you make, that it's relationship, and that it's, as a couple, we become so close to each other. It's not necessarily a bad thing. We become so close to our spouse that we forget they're not our parents, right? Parents have unconditional love.
Right.
So you become so close to your spouse, you're having children together, or you're living together, however stage you are in the relationship. And we can't forget that the spouse is very different than other relationships we have in our lives. Aunts, uncles, parents who love us unconditionally. Sure, your spouse loves you unconditionally, and they should, but we need to still give in a different way to that relationship.
Okay, I might take issue.
They don't need. It's conditional love.
Yes, I might.
I guess.
Take
Okay,
issue.
I was trying to be kind. I was trying to be kind.
You could say that. No, you're entitled. You're entitled. I really think it's an interesting thing for everybody to think about. Email us, let us know what you think. But I really think marriage is conditional love. Listen, I've been married over 32 years. So, of course, it becomes a point where you would give to your spouse and take care of them
without
if you get nothing back. But it takes a long time to get there because, we don't get married just to give and get nothing in return.
That's
we
true.
have things that we want in return. Now, I mean, again, that might be to be able to have children together. I'm not saying it's to feed me,
but yes,
extras,
but it's not. But if like, and we see in our office, if one spouse is the constant, is giving and giving and giving, and the other spouse is returning nothing,
right,
then that is an unhealthy relationship.
It does. It is,
so.
And I think that it's okay to say, people. We want to be unconditionally loved, So we want to believe that no matter what I do, my spouse should just love me to pieces, just because of who I am. And you are a special person because of who you are, perhaps, but that spouse needs to receive certain things that's meaningful to this union. So I think it's okay for people to think, I want my spouse to love me. What is it about me and what do I provide for that spouse that makes me lovable? I think that's a good thing. That doesn't mean something I'm doing. It doesn't always have to be something I'm doing directly for her. I mean, it could be, working, taking care of the children is also something we do together, and I do for her and for my kids and for me. But there has to be something to remind yourself, what makes me lovable in this marriage? And if you don't have a good answer, it's time to think about it and get a good answer. So that is that. I want to tell you a great story about how we're going to talk about, men in a minute, but how women sometimes can go so incredibly underappreciated. And I'm married to the smartest woman I know, one of the smartest people I know. And we were once at this, I speak a lot, and we were once at this convention, and I was the main speaker, and we were sitting, and it was the women's convention, and they were very, very big movers and shakers, and it was a fundraising event, and they sat me with the elite of these 300 women, and my wife and I are sitting there, and they say, okay, Gary, we're going to go around the room and tell you who we are, and they were very, very there. And the first one says, my name is so-and-so, and I am CEO of the country. I mean, like, that's the kind of person it was. And the next one's like, I'm CEO of the universe. I mean, they were like very powerful, capable women. It was really, each one was amazing at who they were. And then it came, to my wife. And my wife, unbeknownst to me, says to me, well, I run a home for unwanted children. And they all said, oh my God. She said, yes, I take care of their schooling needs. I wash their clothes. I make 3 meals for them a day. And they said, oh, that's unbelievable. She says, yeah, they're my kids. Nobody else wanted them, And she made such an incredible point. It was like, when I was doing my maternal duties for other children, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm Mother Teresa, But for my kids, we get it. You're a stay-at-home mom, I mean, we homeschooled the kids, and she taught. It was. But
she's unbelievable.
I don't even like to say that. I hate that I said that because I almost had to defend the fact that she's a stay-at-home mom. Like I had to then say, oh no, but it doesn't matter. She, that work. And how much effort it takes. And, she just made that great point.
We're going to take a very quick break here to let you know about our Newman Method marriage program. It's online and it's 11 episodes. You can watch it from the comfort of your home. And it comes with a 280-page workbook. Each episode has been based on our research and collective 40 years experience as marriage therapists to address the issues that really matter. You can also download for free Gary's new parenting book, Listen, Discipline, and Respect, the only 3 techniques you need to be a great parent. It's a terrific addition to your parenting library, and thank you, Gary, for giving it away for free. To learn more about all of our programs, go to newmanmethod.com, Neuman method.com for more details.
So now, let's talk about the concept of how appreciation works with men. Because, I'm here to tell all women to some extent, how men think. And I think that women can't imagine how much men like to win. But if you have a question, I want you to watch your spouse and male friends watching a sporting event. Okay? Now, the way they would scream and hoot, you would imagine that they must have some ownership in this team. It's got to be, right? It can't, right?
It has to be.
Your husband, by the way, is a genius. The guy's a genius. So the guy is like...
He's very good with numbers. So he's like analyzing and strategic
he's part
movements.
Of these things.
Oh. Fantasy football. Have you?
Football. Like he's in 20 of them, and it's like
how
nothing
he
to
keeps
him.
it all in check, and it's like a job. It is so intense.
It's amazing, and
he loves it.
Oh, it's incredible. And when we go to the Super Bowl party, he's got the chart, and whoever's winning.
But you would think he has
so
ownership
exciting.
in the team.
Oh, for
yeah,
sure,
absolutely,
for sure. Well, you can only hope. But nonetheless, but nonetheless, there's something unbelievable about men you should know, and that is this: that when it gets down to the end of the game, and at that point at which the man decides that it is impossible for his team to win, you know what he does? Bam. Well, you know something, I'm old. I did this as if you're turning off the TV in some manual fashion. He turns off the program. Because once a man sees that he feels that he cannot win, then he turns off. And if you hear anything from me about the male mind, all women out there, that's one that you should understand, and it works to our appreciation, is that a lot of men, when we did our research, and a lot of men who had failed relationships, the primary issue that they would say is, I felt like I just couldn't win. Yeah. And that's why the appreciation is so important. So when your spouse brings you roses and you're thinking in your head, roses die, I wish he brought me a plant, what do you say, Esther?
Don't do that. Don't say anything.
What do you say? What do you say instead?
You say thank you.
Exactly.
Oh my God, this was so amazing. Even if you're thinking,
I don't like red roses. I
smile,
like blue roses.
And I know people don't like what I say. I say you fake it till you make it kind of thing. And people say, well, I should be fake with my spouse? Yes. In these situations, yes, because your spouse is trying. They're trying to bring you something. They're trying to show you love.
Because the point is, you're not faking
you
how much you appreciate their gesture.
Exactly.
You might not like what they did. And listen, obviously, if, like I tell people, if he gets you jewelry, just say it's wonderful. Now, if it's a very expensive piece of jewelry, then of course you can say, if you're thinking of getting me something, bring me a few things or let me go. And, I'm not saying to accept anything, but generally,
I
want
think the
to
concept
first,
is,
or the first thing out of your mouth, I guess. You could always say after, perhaps we can do this next time or whatever. But the first thing out of your mouth is like, I'm so appreciative, because think about what happened. He went ahead and thought of you and took some time, I don't care how little or how large, and did something thinking to make you happy and put a smile on your face. So what he should win out of that is a smile on your face. Right. And of course, I start off with my wife's example, vice versa. Men out there have to realize that we take so many things for granted. And I don't want to hear about let me go back and forth a little. I don't hear about from men is that, I do half the things. I do a lot of the things. I'm 50-50 in the house and 50. Something. Nowadays you have a lot of people where both people are working and he thinks he's doing something by helping her. My wife used to, and again, my wife really took care of everything. But, if I would say to my wife, let me help you with the kids, she would say, no. Let me help you with the kids. And it was such a brilliant idea. Like, help me with your kids. No, they're your kids.
I had a friend who said something. He said something funny to me. He was like, it's not babysitting if it's your own children.
I'm babysitting the kids.
You're babysitting the kids. No, it's your children.
That's terrific. So, even though we had our roles and my spouse, took care of most of those things, like we homeschooled me, she was in charge of that, and I, weighed in, but nonetheless, she was in charge. But the concept is that men think, maybe you have a housekeeper, or I help you. It's not much. Really, it's not much until the guy has to stay with the kids and take care of the house, whatever, for 2 hours, let alone a day or two. She goes away. It's like, oh my gosh, So it's the old Ricky and Lucy show. The old Ricky and Lucy show. People don't remember.
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy. Remember the candy on the
candy conveyor belt.
Conveyor belt, remember?
Yes.
So that show actually was where Ricky and Lucy were complaining that the other one didn't do as much. So she went out and got a job.
He was saying that she was, at home all day. What's she doing?
Nothing.
She was saying how both of them were not appreciating each other for what they were doing. And then she goes to the candy factory and could barely last 10 seconds.
Right, exactly.
10
now,
minutes.
what you don't remember about that show, because Ricky was not nearly as comical as Lucy, is that the rest of that show is he's at home and the soap suds come out and he puts too much yeast and the oven's bursting with challah, with bread.
The ultimate
really
irony is that Lucy was not a stay-at-home mom in reality.
She was not. No, she was a very hard worker outside the home, and I don't know if she was much of a hard worker inside the home.
Great episode. If you so choose to watch it.
Yeah, you should
I Love
definitely go
Lucy,
see it.
the candy one. But it is a very good point. When I see couples in my office, they're in my office because they're trying to make their marriage better. And what we do is we get to a point where the marriage is good, And so they're not complaining necessarily things are bad, but they want things to be better. So I say, look, you got to, at this moment, for your spouse, so they don't feel like you're constantly moving the finish line, they need to say, wow, now it's great. Wow, thank you so much for doing what you're doing now. Could we be better? Sure. But you're not going to win any points by constantly pointing out what your spouse is not doing.
Yes.
If you point out what they are doing and how much you appreciate and love what they are doing, then they're going to want to do it more. Women sometimes, I don't know, sometimes men and women, but we'll say, well, I don't want to thank him or her because then they won't do it anymore.
Yes.
That's a big one. If I thank him for, or for her for taking care of the kids for 2 hours, or for taking the kid to soccer practice.
Right. Then they think okay, I'm done. I don't
have
have to do it anymore.
Right. They'll. I guess it does make sense. I get it. Where you have this sense that the spouse will, you're pointing out that they're working hard to help you. But really what it does is if you thank your spouse for doing it, they just want to do it more because they made you happy. The idea is that you're married to somebody who wants to make you happy, who wants to put that smile on your face. And the more smiles and the more happiness and joy you have together, the better your marriage is going to be, even if there are issues in the marriage. It will kind of turn things to make, to put it in a more positive note.
We like to ring the bell. And if we ring the bell once, we'll try to ring it again. We won't walk away and say, okay, rang that bell. Right. Don't have to do anything else.
That's operant condition. Right. All studies show on animals, on humans. But if you want, people want to continue doing something if they get rewarded for it. Exactly. So reward your spouse in a very loving way, and it will be a reward for yourself as well because you will have a happier, more loving marriage. And
you'll be focusing. And to your point is that even if people are not having a good marriage right now, or it's not so good, you don't always have to go back to the crap in order to deal with everything at the moment. Obviously, in some situations, we've done a 3-part podcast on healing after cheating. So, we've dealt with some very serious issues and where you really have to dig deep.
Yes, it Shrinks on the Street podcast for more about if there's, just to get a little more detailed on the topics we're talking about. So, and you can access that on newmanmethod.com for a link to the podcast.
Right, and you can go on Spotify or Apple and see it there too.
Because I think it is a very good point because we're talking about things. We're trying to get you the information, quickly, but we do, to get a little deeper, we'll go into it on these video podcasts, but you can also check out our other work in order to do that.
So the point is that even if you have an okay marriage or not so okay, or you're having a bit of a slump, appreciation really makes a big difference. And I'll tell you why it's such a good one, because the next thing we're going to talk about, you got to, then we get into communication. You don't have to be a good communicator to appreciate. You don't have to have a dialogue so much. You don't have to have a great relation with the other person. It's me sending it to the other person. And anybody can do that. And the other person really warms up under those circumstances. So everybody should get to it. Twice a day, don't forget. Okay, so we were going to give you 2 marriage essentials. But it seems that because we went on and on, I hope it was interesting.
Was helpful. It was good. Good stuff.
We're going to stop here for this time, and we're going to meet you back for the second marriage essential. Not going to tell you what it is, but I think you're going to be very happy with it. Now, again, go to newmanmethod.com, Neuman method.com. Also, we want you to ask us your questions, whatever thoughts you have. We're going to try to take some questions, and we'll be answering them on our podcast in this videocast. And we look forward to being of great help. We also have some great guests coming up. I do have to say, because I'm so excited, we have a few. We have the chief rabbi of South Africa, Rabbi Goldstein, dear friend, amazing individual, Dr. Harold Koplowitz, who is a psychiatrist who developed and founded the Child Mind Institute in New York and is a best-selling author, and person who I also find just fascinating, Gerald Schroeder, who wrote Genesis and the Big Bang. These are just brilliant minds way beyond me, so I'm going to try to scratch some brilliance out of them and try to understand it and bring it on to you. So we will see you soon. Hopefully come back, and we plan to be of help.